The CLT Life Home Team at Rinehart Realty presents the Market Report, August 2021, hosted by Jimmy Grappone with guest Jay Rinehart. Hey everybody, it's Jimmy here with the CLT Life and the CLT Life Home Team at Rinehart Realty. And today I am joined by President and owner of Rinehart Realty, Mr. Jay Rinehart. Jay, how's it going today?
Good morning, Jimmy. How you doing, buddy?
I'm doing great. I am really excited right now because we're about to discuss what's going on in the Charlotte region real estate market. So today is August the 11th, 2021. And I just say that because the two things about the Charlotte region and also where we are and when we are, because real estate is always local and the real estate market is always a snapshot in time. So we want to talk about what's been going on in the market recently. I know we have some all the data from Q2 and even some July data that we can talk about, and then we'll talk about we'll focus in on some local areas as well.
Yeah, when you start talking about real estate marketplace, Jimmy, it's you know this as well as I do, that it's not like the stock market, right? You can't day trade real estate. So a lot of things that we look at in the industry is to look back at what's been happening, which is one of the reasons we're going to look at July's data now. Again, we're August the 11th, so we're only 11 days past the end of this month, but also looking forward. In other words, looking at not only the real estate data, but what's happening in the world, what's happening in the calls we get as a leading real estate companies, the world company. From different parts of the country, you know, the discussions I have with other brokers in other parts of the country that are sending people to our area and that are seeing this migration that we're seeing.
There's a lot of those.
Yeah, there's a lot of them that you take all of that in, and then that gives us an idea as to, okay, what does the next 6 months look like? What does the next year look like? So I'm looking forward to talking.
Cool. Well, before we dive into the data, you mentioned something that I wanted to touch on in this conversation as well. Rinehart Realty being part of leading real estate agents of the world. So, you know, as a realtor, one of the things that I look at as far as giving us an advantage is being able to refer people to agents in different markets, but not just picking somebody randomly off the internet, but actually finding somebody who's vetted and who's going to be a good fit. As you know, I recently helped my sister get placed with a realtor in upstate New York, and she'll be closing on her home pretty soon, and she's real happy with that. But then you mentioned another advantage as well is just that network of other brokers and leaders that you have, so you can kind of helps you, I'm sure, keep a pulse on what's going on in the real estate market, not just locally, but looking at national and global trends as well.
That's right. I mean, being a member of the leading real estate companies world, it's an invitation-only group, and you have to be in the top 5 independent brokers in your marketplace, wherever you are in the United States. So we're real pleased to be part of that group for the Charlotte metro region. We do have other members in this group in our region, which is nice also because we have sister companies that we do share a lot of referrals back and forth. You know, even Lake Norman Realty. I mean, they're ones that, again, because we're hyper local, we're local to our area and we're experts in our area. We don't pretend to cover an hour away. You know, we want to make sure that we know our neighborhoods, we know the market just in depth. But at the same time, having that global reach where not only can we send somebody anywhere in the world, but also we know these people. Right. We've had dinner with them, we talk with them. Matter of fact, in a normal referral transaction, there's only about a 7% close rate. Mm-hmm. Well, in the leading real estate companies world, we track it and we have about a 76% close rate. Oh, wow. So it's a wonderful network to be a part of, really high quality people, high quality companies that we can place our trusted, our clients with a trusted advisor.
Oh yeah. And placing, like I said, placing a family member directly, there's definitely had to be a high level of trust there. Sure. And she's been really pleased. So, well, hey, let's jump into talking about what's going on in the Charlotte real estate market. We'll start off looking kind of a big picture with the Charlotte region, and then we'll dive into a couple local areas. So, at Rinehart Realty, we have We have offices in Rock Hill, Fort Mill, and Waxhaw. So we cover the whole Charlotte region, but we are hyper local in these areas. So I want to talk about those markets as well.
Sure.
All
That
right.
sounds good.
You want to share your screen
Sure. Let me do that.
there?
Well, one of the things that we're going to be seeing on this is you and I have worked on, as we look at it, we look at data. We use a model that is part of the MLS. And one of the beauties of being with a brokerage company and being with a realtor like Jimmy is that they have access to the real-time data. We don't have to wait for another aggregator to get the data. We go straight to the source, and we can look at statistics like you see on the screen from the statistic analysis model. And this I've already set up. You'll see across the top, I've got the entire MLS. I've got York County, Union County, and Lancaster County. Thought that was a good snapshot for us as we look at it. And I just went single family condos and multifamily. That way we're not looking at lots and acres and farms, because that's an entire different animal when you start looking at statistics. I also went to resale. Now we can add new construction in, but really the resale market is where a lot of people are focused at, because the new construction, they know what's happening with new construction, and the new construction costs today are really driving a lot of different things in the resale market. You say, why would that happen? Well, new construction is selling at X number of dollars a square foot because that's what the cost to build is. What does that bring everybody else up to? And that's one of the factors that we're seeing that is driving some of these increases in prices that we see. Now, you and I both know I'm sorry.
I was just saying, and supply and demand. There's so many people that are moving to this area.
Absolutely. Well, this that we're looking at here is new listings on the market.
Okay.
And the beauty of this is I can go back and we can look at month and keep going back as the months go. So the new listings on the market in the entire MLS, this in July, you're looking at, well, actually, yeah, through July is 69,131 total listings, which is up. That's up by about 11, almost 12% year over year. But when you look and you start to really boil down into the York County, Union County, and Lancaster County, you start to see the important thing that I want to show is listings are up. Our inventory is up when you look at the total listings that are going on to the market. Now that's new listings, but then when you look at the actual homes for sale, now you start to see those really big numbers shrink massively. Okay. The resale market for the entire MLS is at 5,978 houses. Okay.
Talk about so the entire MLS geographically. How far are we talking? Because we have the Charlotte region, but that also expands a little bit further out too. Correct.
You pick up Asheville. You pick up. I mean, it's a significant area. That again, there are specific pockets in North Carolina that we pull in. Now, the vast majority of these listings are in the Charlotte region, but when you boil down and you say, okay, Jay, maybe let's take out the entire MLS and let's just add a line for Mecklenburg County. And when we add that in,
sorry, I was just saying, I love how we have this tool where it's so we can just go in and grab this accurate data.
Right. Well, Mecklenburg County, out of that 5,000 or so listings, Mecklenburg County, you've got 2,279. You've got Lancaster with 396, Union with 622, and York with 725. Total listings, resale, and let's take out let's just go to resale and then give us our single family condo and multifamily. And look what happens when you do that. York County's 275, Union's 238, Lancaster's 117, and Mecklenburg's 1366. The important thing to look at, yes, I know those are gross numbers, but look at these percentages. We're down a minimum of, total Mecklenburg County is down 42.5%, but York, Lancaster, and Union County are all down in the 50+%.
We're looking year over year, so we're comparing August of this year to August of last year, right?
Correct. You got it. So Look at that. Now, the interesting thing when we shift over from homes for sale to pending sales, we know we're down, but look, all of these numbers are positive. So we've got more sales with less inventory. Therein lies the rub. And you go, wait a minute, Jay, how can that happen? More sales with less inventory. That just means everything is flying off the shelves a lot faster. It's not that we're not going to sell any houses. And that's when I go into the marketplace, a lot of people say, oh, y'all must, y'all don't have anything to sell. I'm like, no, we have a lot to sell. It's just we have more demand than we have supply, and therefore it goes very quickly.
Right.
So, when you're looking at the statistics, it's just a driver of the market right now.
I remember the other day on one of our sales calls, you're talking about how it's not an inventory. Well, it's an inventory issue, but it's not a listings issue. It's a timing issue, and it's just one of those things that when the right house comes on the market, it's likely going to get snatched up pretty quickly, especially if it's priced correctly, and if it's staged or photographed properly and presents well. Those are the homes that are moving quickly. If there's anything that's sitting out there, it's ones that are overpriced or maybe just have some cell phone pictures on there and they don't show very well.
That's right. We mentioned a house that we had on the market at $250,000. It's in the Charlotte area, and we put it on the market within about the first 36 hours. We had 82 showings, and after that, ended up with 42 offers. And obviously, it doesn't take a very smart person to figure it went for more than the asking price. But the reality in that is that house was in great condition. It was staged properly. It had wonderful pictures, and we had priced it right. But the market drove that price up, and that's what we're seeing. These statistics, like even what we're looking at now on the screen of the average days on the market. Again, look, these are very low numbers. You're talking about York County being at 16, Union at 17, Lancaster at 20, and Mecklenburg at 17 for average days on the market. Mm-hmm. Jimmy, that's half a month. No time. Yeah. That's no time. It's crazy. And, we can even boil down into, okay, Jay, well, that's not really, but this is the list to close. So, this is from the day we put it on the market till the day that it closes. And look at these numbers. You're talking about York County being at 45, Union at 43, Lancaster at 49, and Mecklenburg at 43.
Usually, I was going to say, when we write a contract, we're writing anywhere from 30 to 45 days out closing. So, that 45-day closing could be a house that went under contract in a day or two.
Right.
Wrote in, 45 days out for the closing period.
Right. It's crazy to look at and to understand that these are down significantly too. You look at these percentages that we're down anywhere from, 19.6% in York County to 24.6% in Union County year over year again. Mm-hmm. So we were in a fast market last year. We're in just crazy market this year.
Yeah. So how would you compare the spring market? So I would say around March or so, March or April is when everything got quote unquote crazy, when homes were receiving 30 offers, 80 offers, or 40 offers, like you said, other house. How are you seeing what was happening, let's say from March to June compared to what's happening now in this third?
Yeah. The difficult that we've had, think about this, with that one house, we had 42 offers on. Only one couple got it.
Right.
Which meant there were still 41 out there looking and making offers on other houses. And that's why I don't believe we're in for a huge slowdown. Let's say we even slowed down to half of the demand today. Mm-hmm. Well, that would be a phenomenal market. If I was looking at on that type of house getting 20 offers, oh my goodness, that would be wow. So that's why I do believe we could be in for a little bit of a pullback. But we're in an area, Jimmy, that, people want to come to our area. They're not looking and saying, oh, no, don't go to Charlotte. Don't go to Waxhaw. Don't go to Rock Hill. They're saying, wow, where can I go in Rock Hill?
Right.
Where can I go and afford something? And that's why I believe we're also seeing the growth of the market in Lancaster proper, not the Panhandle, but Lancaster proper, and then secondarily also down into Chester and the Richburg area.
Well, yeah. So I live in Lancaster County. I'm right on the border at Lancaster and Union, and we're in that the neck, up there.
Mhm.
But there's so much if you head down 521 into Lancaster, that's just going to be the natural expansion of the Charlotte area. I know. So I've been in the Charlotte area about 15 years. I know you're a native here. One of my good friends, he was born here. He lived his first few years here, probably in the early 80s. And he said that going down to Pineville Matthews and 51 in Charlotte, or Pineville Matthews Road, where Arboretum is, that was way out in the country.
Mhm.
And
Right.
then down where I'm down here in Waxhaw, another 20 minutes out, that was, well, you were really far out there. And now it's one of the fastest growing areas in the whole Charlotte region. So I can just imagine that as more and more people move to the Charlotte area, for our climate, for our schools, for our jobs, that it's just going to continue to push, and we're going to expand, and hopefully we can do it in a smart way. Not to bash any other cities, but Atlanta, if you go down there, the way they expanded is just a big mess. They didn't really seem to have a plan when they grew so fast. So hopefully our region has a plan for that.
Yeah, I think we've been working really hard, the I-77 Alliance, a lot of those things that are, and one of the interesting things, we have Atlanta's right in the middle of one state. We have two states. And so you have to have cooperation with a major metropolitan city with, out of the 17 counties, 3 of the counties are in South Carolina, and they're part of the fastest growing part of the entire metro area. So,
Right.
We can't ignore each other as North Carolina and South Carolina. So interesting stuff. Now, one of the other interesting things, and you and I pointed it out before, is kind of pricing. And, every other the graph that we've looked at has been down and to the right.
Right.
And guess what this one is?
Up and to
This
the
is up and to the right. And look at that increase between, mid, and this is purchase, this is the percent of original price. Okay. So, historically, this has been the line. We've been in that 97, 98% for a long period of time. And they kind of gathered together in the early 2000s, but in this last period of time, including into 2001, look, we're basically at 100%. Okay. Now, the interesting thing is, as you go over here, you look at 100% for the median, but let's switch over to average and look what happens to these numbers. They go above 100%, right? So, you're looking at sale percentage of original list price to sale price increasing significantly now to over 100% for the average, Jimmy. That's taking into account everything, even the overpriced houses.
Yeah. So that means on average, people are getting more than what they're asking for. So from a pricing strategy standpoint, then, because we always want to advise people to price their home correctly so that they can attract the most number of potential people interested in the home, and then ideally you get multiple people interested in making offers on your house, and that's what ends up pushing the price up. But how do you coach or advise home sellers who say, oh man, that house just sold for $500,000, and the next a year ago it was selling for 400. How do you coach them on trying to chase a higher price versus pricing it based on historical data?
We believe in market-driven pricing. In other words, just like you and I have talked about, we want to look at what does the market say today is the price, knowing that if we price it right, we may very well have multiple people in bidding on it. So we believe there's a pricing pyramid that we have in our listing packet that we use. And if you price the house properly, you will get about 60 to 70% of the total market out there looking at your house. If you overprice by 10%, that drops down to you will only have about 10 to 15% of the market looking at your house. You go, wait a minute, that's not that much. You're talking about $50,000-$60,000 on a $500,000 house. Well, that's correct, because what ends up happening is they look at the pictures, they look at the detail and go, that's overpriced. I'm going to look at the other ones. Because in today's market, usually you're not just looking at one house. Usually you will have an opportunity to select between 2 or 3, or like we were saying, you may have bid on other houses, and now I'm in my 3rd, 4th, 5th, 6th contract trying to get a house. Then I have a pretty good idea as to what the market is doing.
Oh yeah, you learn quickly.
You learn very quickly. And the consumer is, y'all have heard me say this before, but the consumer is smarter than all of us. And that has to sink in for most people, because they're going, wait a minute. Oh, I'm the consumer. Oh, me collectively is smarter than any business out there. That's why it's called, business knowledge. That's why people get paid a lot of money to consult, because they're saying, okay, what is a consumer driving? What's the consumer looking at? And the consumer in real estate is looking at the data. They have access to a lot of data. They just don't know how to interpret it, which is one of the beauties of what we're doing today.
So we're talking about we're seeing all these trends and everything that's happening, and this is all great news for sellers. What's the silver lining here for home buyers that are in this market?
Right. For home buyers that are in this market, patience is the silver lining. Okay. They have to know, and a lot of I get asked this for first-time home buyers. Parents may call me up and say, what do I do? We want to have, Jimmy and his wife buy a house, and how do we help them out? And when we're sitting talking, I always say you need to be patient. You need to realize that you've got to go in and love the house enough that you will make it your own. You're not going to find that perfect house. This is not, let's go look at 20 different houses. If you look at 20 different houses and put 20 different offers in, then there's something wrong. You want to make yourself as strong as possible. So if it is possible to compete on a cash offer, by George, compete on the cash offer. If it is not, then you want to be not pre-qualified. You want to be pre-approved. You want that sheet of paper that says the only thing missing for this buyer is, does the house do its part? Will it appraise? Is it in good condition? You also need to, as a buyer, be ready to accept maybe some issues with the house that otherwise you would want fixed. So there's a lot of times where somebody will accept clouded windows, a broken, seal in a window, whereas 5 years ago they would have gone, nope, I want that fixed, and seller, you have to pay for it. Well, now you may want to consider that is going to be an expense for you. So for buyers, it is patience. It's also having the conversation you and I are having right now with your agent. Don't just go jump in the car. You have to be prepared to buy a house today. You have to know the process. And Jimmy, you've got a process.
Right.
When you're sitting down with somebody, you can take them from view consulting. Mm-hmm. How are we going to do this, through the approval process, to now let's go get our hopes up and let's get in and take a look at these houses, to competing, to then the hard part, which is going from contract to close.
Yep. Yeah. One of the things I always do anytime I'm working with a buyer is do a buyer consultation. And one of the things I like to do is go over that the offer to purchase and just go through it and explain, because I find that it really explains and breaks down everything that's going to happen along the way. So whether that's the 15-page North Carolina document, or at the South Carolina is about 9 pages, I think now, 8 or 9.
Right.
And we also have to know, there's different processes in the 2 different states. So that's, I guess, one other question before we wrap up with in North Carolina, everybody does, you have to do due diligence, basically. One of the trends that we've seen for buyers to try to win properties is a lot of them are having to put a little bit more skin in the game by paying that due diligence fee and making that higher. And that really jumped up this spring as well. So Do you think that's something that's going to continue after once the market starts to balance out, or is that something that's here with us for a while?
No, I think that will change. I think once the market balances out, now I do think it's higher than it would have ever gotten to. In other words, that we do have part of it that's going to stay. So in other words, I don't think somebody's going to take their house off the market for $100 anymore.
Right.
Okay. I do think we're into probably the future being between $500 and $1,000 in a regular market.
Mm-hmm.
Not some like you and I have seen of $10,000, $20,000, $40,000.
Right.
I do believe that we are also in a position where, as listing agents, we are coaching our clients and getting the house ready. I think that is here to stay, that we are going to really produce a better product as listing agents for the future. And the expectation of the consumer is they're going to be able to look online and see exactly what that house looks like, even down to in nicer houses, the Matterport, the 3D, being able to walk through. In other words, I can actually look at it without ever having walked through the door, and then have somebody that I love go over on FaceTime or something and do a virtual showing and enter in that contract, feel comfortable. And when I move in that first day, feel good about what I have purchased. I believe that is the future of real estate in a lot of ways.
Yeah. And they still need us to guide them through the process. And yeah, it's interesting how technology has changed, how we do our jobs and also what our value is. And I think, what we do now is even more important because with so much information out there, in every aspect, every area of the world, there's so much information out there. You have to really be able to decipher it and figure out, all right, what's the junk and all right, what's the real important information and what's accurate that we need to be looking at.
That's right. And like in most professions, I mean, people don't need us when they feel like it goes just easy until they try and do it themselves and realize the reason it was easy is because they had the professional involved, and we were there every step of the way, and we've done thousands of these transactions, and we're able to bring all of that experience to their one that they do every 7 to 10 years.
Yeah, I had a client a few years ago, and she was getting a little bit nervous, and I said, look, you ever been on a boat? She said, yeah. I said, have you ever driven a boat? She said, no. I said, well, I have, and this is the boat that I'm driving. I'm the captain of the ship, and I'll get to safe harbor. And I think that's our goal and our mission, as realtors, is to get home safely, basically, right?
That's right. Safe and sound. Put them in a new house.
There you go. Well, Jay, I really appreciate the time that you spent with me today, and I know the viewers of this are going to really enjoy it, and they're going to get a lot of great information and great education as well. So is there anything else that you'd like to add before we sign off?
Nope. Thank you so much for having me on, Jimmy. I really enjoyed it.
All right. I appreciate it. And this was August 2011. We'll have to do this again. We'll continue to watch the market, and as we see new shifts, down the road, we'll do this again.
Sounds great.
Thanks, Jay. I appreciate it.
Yeah, man. Bye-bye.